It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Flying down from Nova Scotia today.
This nation was founded by men of many nations and backgrounds.
I have a dream that all men are created equal.
Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have a liftoff.
Nation, what's up? As always, you were listening to the Two Doom Men podcast, and it is Skaggs and the Captain in the shack in the back.
Yes.
And it's been a while, man. It is good to be back. How you doing, pal?
Good. It's good to be back in person. We've been doing
Yes.
a lot of Zooms over the past month.
Life takes over, man.
Yeah.
Life takes over. What do we got on today's docket?
We're back after our January 6th extravaganza.
That
with
was a fun time.
That was fun. It went a lot better than I thought it would. You know, we were all concerned that having like 10 people in one podcast is going to be too much. But, man, shout out to everybody who joined us. Thank you. You guys are all professionals. Everybody knows, like, just like podcasting etiquette, like when someone is talking, you got to be quiet, etc. Good job to everybody. Hopefully we work with those guys more in the future. Stay tuned for stuff like that. We'll see as we get closer. So we are back. Man, I don't know. I hate to just keep hitting January 6th over the head.
Hey, I'm not over it yet either.
But I'm gonna, the left is constantly, really the government is hitting it overhead. They're still doing the January 6th committee where they're investigating the whole thing. And there was just some interesting stuff that happened the past couple of days with Ted Cruz. We're going to get into that. We're going to play you some clips. We're going to comment on them. Another thing I kind of wanted to talk about was tennis. Novak Djokovic.
Oh, I saw this. I have no idea what it's about.
So I got a little bit. We'll talk a little bit about that. His situation in the Australian Open and his vaccination status. And that's really what I got. Did a lot of research where you got a lot. Apparently, you're saying you got ADD over.
Yeah, I mean, it's just I'm firing on all cylinders. So that means halfway through one of my rants, I'll completely forget what I'm saying. I mean, my big topic of what we're probably going to get into is we're winning. We are winning.
Yeah.
So I am more after our little Instagram insurrection party and talking to those guys and just, we did take a little time off around the holidays. You had a kid and, people got sick. And now that I've been diving deeper into it, we're winning. We're winning. And after we talk about Ted Cruz, it'll be the perfect opportunity to roll into what we're talking about.
Yeah, very general, broad statement, but I agree. I felt like when Kyle Rittenhouse was found not guilty, that was the tide turning. I'm dead serious.
The starting of it.
I thought that was when the tide turned in this whole, whatever the fuck's going on in this country, this culture war, this cold civil war that's going on. I felt like that was a major turning point. So.
Yeah, things are falling apart for them, they. Zaz, whatever.
Zers. So let's get into this, right? The past couple of days, Ted Cruz, he made some comments about how the January 6th Capitol Riot was a terrorist attack. And he went on Tucker Carlson. I can never say Tucker's last name right for some reason. And I have to give Tucker credit. We're going to play it. We're going to watch it. This is how journalism is done. This is how an interview is done. Tucker held Ted Cruz's feet to the fire for his comments.
Wait, Hunt, did you
January
see
6th.
Tucker has been on a roll lately? Did you see what he did about Nancy Pelosi? Where he was like, he was like, Michael Jackson is alive and well. We have footage. Like I had no idea like he had aired this or like she was on Fox or even this whole eyebrow gate, whatever. Mm-hmm. And he was like, I was like, Michael Jackson's alive. What? And I'm listening to this, and I'm like, what is he? How can Michael Jackson be alive? Like, I know there's conspiracy theories, and that guy Dave or whatever his name is, and then it was Nancy Pelosi, and I was like, holy.
So that is funny. It seems like something we might have done. I will say to give Tucker some criticism. I don't know.
It's not needed.
It's not needed on his sort of program. It's
Right.
supposed to be like news, right? But that's the way, whatever. It's his show. It's funny.
Yeah.
If Brian Stelter did some shit like that, people would be like, this is ridiculous. It's stupid, etc.
It might actually gain him more viewers at this point.
That's true. So let's get into this. I have here video and the audio. Let's see if I can find it. Got a new computer working on here, trying to get the hang of it. So this is Tucker, and it's going to be a little bit of a couple minutes here. We're going to be watching two videos. So this is Tucker talking about Ted Cruz, his comments, and the 1/6 insurrection. So let's get into some. We'll give some commentary as well.
We played this tape for you last time. We were surprised by it. We prefaced it by saying every conservative appreciates Ted Cruz because he's one of the smartest and most articulate people in the Congress, and he's conservative. But he referred publicly to what happened on January 6th as, quote, a violent terror attack. Here it is.
We are approaching a solemn anniversary this week, and it is an anniversary of a violent terrorist attack on the Capitol, where we saw the men and women of law enforcement demonstrate incredible courage, incredible bravery, risk their lives to defend the men and women who serve in this Capitol.
Senator Cruz was game enough to come on tonight. We appreciate that. He joins us now. Senator, thanks so much for coming on. So I guess there are a lot of dumb people in the Congress. You're not one of them.
Welcome to
smarter
the
than I
club.
am. And you never use words carelessly. And yet you called this a terror attack when by no definition was it a terror attack. That's a lie. You told that lie on purpose, and I'm wondering why you did.
Well, Tucker, thank you for having me on. When you aired your episode last night, I sent you a text shortly thereafter and said, listen, I'd like to go on because the way I phrased things yesterday, it was sloppy and it was frankly dumb. And
I don't buy that.
Whoa.
I don't buy that. Look, I've known you a long time, since before you went to the Senate. You were a Supreme Court contender. You take words as seriously as any man who's ever served in the Senate. And every word you repeated that phrase. I do not believe that you used that accidentally. I just don't.
So, Tucker, as a result of my sloppy phrasing, it's caused a lot of people to misunderstand what I meant. Let me tell you what I meant to say. What I was referring to are the limited number of people who engaged in violent attacks against police officers. Now, I think you and I both agree that if you assault a police officer, you should go to jail. That's who I was talking about. And the reason the phrasing was sloppy is I have talked dozens, if not hundreds of times. I've drawn a distinction. I wasn't saying that the thousands of peaceful protesters supporting Donald Trump are somehow terrorists. I wasn't saying the millions of patriots across the country supporting President Trump are terrorists, and that's what a lot of people have misunderstood that comment.
Wait a second, but hold on. What you just said doesn't make sense. So if somebody assaults a cop, he should be charged and go to jail. I couldn't agree more. We have said that for years. But that person's still not a terrorist. How many people have been charged with terrorism on January 6th? Like, why'd you use that word? You're playing into the other side's characterization that, as Joe Kent just explained, allows them to define an entire population as foreign combatants. And you know that. So why'd you do it?
So I'll pause right there real quick. That's the main point here that we're going to try and get to, and that Tucker is accurately getting to. You're playing into the left's mischaracterization and the fact that they're trying to make this some sort of sanctimonious holy holiday where they could, that
gives them, they hold on to January 6th so tightly because it gives them the reason to completely restructure our democracy, because our democracy took such a hit. We couldn't work for several hours, and just democracy is in danger. So we need to change election, and we need to pack the Supreme Court, because look at these animals and these terrorists out here.
We need to turn the war on terrorism inwards. For the domestic war on terrorism, and it's all it is, flat out. The whole thing is it's an excuse in order for the state to increase its power, to restrict your rights, for them to do whatever the fuck they want to do. So that's why we are so opposed to it. We don't think what happened was good. We don't think the Capitol was good. What they did. We said that back when it happened. We said it was ridiculous and stupid. These guys had the delusions of grandeur. But now, as the months went on, we figured out there's more to the story, right? So let's keep going here, because this is just.
Are we going to listen to the rest of this?
Yeah, we're going to listen to the rest of this.
I have plenty to say after.
This is fantastic. So let's keep going.
So Tucker, let me answer you directly. The reason I use that word, for a decade, I have referred to people who violently assault police officers as terrorists. I've done so over and over and over again. If you look at all the assaults we've seen across the country, I've called that terrorism over and over again. That being said, Tucker, I agree with you. It was a mistake to say that yesterday, and the reason is what you just said, which is we've now had a year of Democrats and the media twisting words and trying to say that all of us are terrorists, trying to say you're a terrorist, I'm a terrorist. And so, look, I don't like people who assault cops, and I stand up and defend cops. And the reason I use that word is that's the word I've always used for people that violently attack cops. But in this context, I get why people were angry, because we've had a year of the corrupt corporate media and Democrats claiming anyone who objected to the election fraud. And by the way, remember what was happening during those protests?
Can I ask, hold on, you work in this, I guess I just don't believe you.
I don't
and
believe
I mean that
you.
with respect, because I have such respect for your acuity and your precision, and I've seen it on display. I've covered you as a reporter. I know how you speak. And you have sat there for a year and watched people use language to distort the events of that day. Intentionally. Insurrection. Coup.
And of course it was an insurrection. Saying it's an insurrection is a political term. It's a lie. I've repeatedly denounced it. And when it comes to, look, I was focusing on what I normally say. That what you aired was a little 15-second snippet. What I normally say is violence is wrong, peaceful protest is right. If you engage in violence, you should be prosecuted. If you're speaking, you have a right to speak. I say that all the time.
Well, I meant, and I agree.
In that snippet.
So who's Ray Epps, by the way, since you are a senator? Like, he and this other guy are clearly encouraging the crowd to commit crimes. Neither one has been arrested or charged. What is that, do you think?
So I think that is a very good question. I don't know who Ray Epps is. I've seen that video multiple times. It's disturbing. He's clearly urging the crowd to violate the law. When you see the crowd start chanting, Fed, 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 for him to appear on the FBI's most wanted list and come off, it certainly suggests he was working for the FBI. That's not conclusive, but that's the obvious implication. And the Attorney General and the Department of Justice won't answer the question. Tucker, I can tell you, I joined with a number of other senators trying to get the Biden DOJ to answer the question why so many January 6th prisoners are in solitary confinement, why they're being treated so much worse than the Antifa rioters and the people who committed firebombing and a year of riots across the country. And this Biden DOJ won't go after them. But let me also make a quick...
All right, so I'm going to end it there. If you go back to our own episode 99, with The Great Divide with Alan Jacoby, we covered this situation at length, in detail. Mm-hmm. This was the Revolver News story about Ray Epps. We broke it down for you guys. And, Tucker has known about this. Again, kudos to Tucker Carlson. He did not take any shit there whatsoever. Yeah. That was the most politician sort of trying to weasel his way out answers. Trying to weasel his way out that he possibly could. Tucker did not give him an inch. Not only did he not give him an inch, but he asked the questions that we have all had to a sitting member of Congress or senator. Finally, right? The question has been asked to them.
So I got a lot to say on this because I haven't watched this clip in full until now. I knew he went on. I knew what he said. I knew he went on, and then I know what he said about questioning. Oh boy,
that fly just went right in front of us. All right.
And I know what he questioned about Ray Epps. Ray Epps. Yeah. I got to say, this was a perfect clip. This needs to be seen everywhere, not just based on what they're talking about. This is how it's supposed to be.
This is how you interview a politician.
Yes. This is 100% the interaction that is supposed to take place between a journalist in the media and a politician. Let's break it down for a sec. Ted Cruz, he's taken a lot of beatings. He is not perfect. I do like him. He took, my love for him or, my liking for him took a hit when he started this, domestic terrorist stuff on J6. And I look at it too. A, he's not perfect. And B, he gets, every time he opens his mouth, he gets attacked. So he's not Trump where you're just going to keep shoving it down people's throats. He's playing the game a little bit. And I know Tucker accused him of that, and he shouldn't be playing the game. But you can only take so much abuse before you just try and dodge and weave a few punches here and there where you can. But on Tucker's side, this was done perfectly. This is how every journalist needs to treat politicians. It doesn't need to be hostile. It does, but you need to get these actual answers out of these people.
Yeah.
You need to bring up the past. I interviewed you before. I know how you speak. I know, your history. I know what you, because when you get people who interview Joe Biden, it's these little fluffy questions. When they talk to Pelosi, these little, run of the mill questions. Pelosi's history is well documented, and we're never going to go back and look at her history. You know what I mean? This was excellent. This is excellent.
He literally said, "I don't believe you," to not to his face, but to his face, on a Zoom or whatever they on. And you're right. When most of these network corporate press people interview a politician, they ask them the question, and even if the question itself is maybe, we're giving them a lot of credit here, maybe sometimes a good question, they never follow up.
Nope.
They allow the politician to give the bullshit response, and then they never press them on it. They never say. I mean, Tucker Carlson again said, "I don't believe you," and it made me laugh because it reminded me of like Ron Burgundy or something like that. But this would be like Ron Burgundy doing an interview. And he brings up good points. That when you speak, Ted Cruz, you are a lawyer. You choose every word carefully and on purpose. So like, why did you do it here, etc. A point I want to make here, right, is you should never ever like idolize or worship any politician. These people, they work for us, right? If you believe in democracy or a constitutional republic or whatever the fuck mess we got going on here in this country, right? So people did not like what Ted Cruz said because most people realize what happened on January 6th is complete bullshit, and they're trying to spin it into a way for the state to again restrict our rights and etc. So again, kudos to Tucker, right? Because Tucker can vibe. This is what the base, I guess you could call us the base, feels. So I have the chance now to put this guy's feet to the fire, and I'm going to do what the base wants me to do. So good for Tucker Carlson for doing that. And we're going to see in the next video here, it worked, right? It worked.
Yeah.
Ted Cruz now, because he works for us, right? Remember, we don't give a shit what Ted Cruz's personal ambitions is. I could give a flying fuck less about any of these people. I want to know what the fuck happened between January 6th, because I would like for this whole thing to be completely exposed so everybody could see how the government really operates behind the scenes. So they are in the January 6th committee or whatever the fuck, this whole sham that they got going on to try and pin the whole thing on Trump. I don't like Trump either. We've said this a million times. So finally, Ted Cruz. Now this is like the next day. So this was
the next day.
Yeah, this was yesterday. Today is what? Today is Wednesday, right?
Yep.
The interview with Tucker was on Monday. Then on Tuesday, Ted goes before this like hearing or whatever it is, and he gets a chance to speak to a representative from the FBI. And the FBI has been accused of having, something to do with the Capitol Riot and
putting plants and provocateurs,
right, provocateurs and Ray Epps, right? And no one has publicly asked this question or brought this up until this very moment in time, which we're finally going to play for you.
And if you are, I understand our base and our listeners are probably up on this stuff, but if you are new, go swing over to Revolver News, and they wrote up a great piece that is what sparked our conversation on episode 99 with Alan. And they had an awesome piece, and they got very deep into detail. Actually, Revolver News does such good work that on Gab, Trump actually called them out for like doing such good news.
Yeah, and they'll be dismissed as fringe right wing, whatever, etc. And we'll get more into that.
Misinformation.
So let's get into this. Is Ted Cruz now? This is part 2. The next day, Ted Cruz is before some sort of Senate hearing, and he has the FBI right in front of him, and he's able to ask some questions. So let's hear.
I want to turn to the FBI. How many FBI agents or confidential informants actively participated in the events of January 6th?
Sir, I'm sure you can appreciate that I can't go into the specifics of sources and methods.
Did any FBI agents or confidential informants actively participate in the events of January 6th? Yes or no?
Sir, I can't answer that.
Did any FBI agents or confidential informants commit crimes of violence on January 6th?
I can't answer that, sir.
Did any FBI agents or FBI informants actively encourage and incite crimes of violence on January 6th?
Sir, I can't answer that.
Ms. Sadburn, who is Ray Epps?
I'm aware of the individual, sir. I don't have the specific background to him.
Well, there are a lot of people who are understandably very concerned about Mr. Epps. On the night of January 5th, 2021, Epps wandered around the crowd that had gathered. And there's video out there of him chanting, "Tomorrow, we need to get into the Capitol, into the Capitol." This was strange behavior, so strange that the crowd began chanting, "Fed, Fed, 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 Fed." Ms. Sandburn, was Ray Epps a Fed?
Sir, I cannot answer that question.
The next day, on January 6th, Mr. Epps is seen whispering to a person.
If you're listening, he has literal printouts from the Revolver
News. 5 seconds after he's
News.
whispering to a person, that same person begins to forcibly tear down the barricades. Did Mr. Epps urge them to tear down the barricades?
Sir, similar to the other answers, I cannot answer that.
Shortly thereafter, the FBI put out a public post seeking information on individuals connected with violent crimes on January 6th. Among those individuals, in the bottom there, is Mr. Epps. The FBI publicly asked for information, offering cash rewards for information leading to the arrest. This was posted, and then, sometime later, magically, Mr. Epps disappeared from the public posting. According to public records, Mr. Epps has not been charged with anything. No one's explained why a person videoed urging people to go to the Capitol, a person whose conduct was so suspect the crowd believed he was a Fed, would magically disappear from the list of people the FBI was looking at. Ms. Sandburn, a lot of Americans are concerned that the federal government deliberately encouraged illegal and violent conduct on January 6th. My question to you, and this is not an ordinary law enforcement question, this is a question of a public accountability. Did federal agents or those in service of federal agent actively encourage violent and criminal conduct on January 6th?
Not to my knowledge, sir.
Thank you.
Wow, she answered one question. So hold on. If you guys, the video's on that, so they didn't see my hands.
Yeah, I'll try.
Well, 7. He asked 7 questions that got the response of, "I cannot answer that." Suspect.
So I just want to make the point here, right? When people always ask us, what can I do? What can we do? There's nothing we could do about all this bullshit the government does. What just happened there is a direct result of normal people, journalists, Revolver News, idiots like me and Chris, guys like James on We the People Radio, all those people, just any random person who has a critical thought or is curious, being annoyed by what is going on and pressuring, making it, like voicing your opinion that you are annoyed and you think this doesn't add up. Someone like Tucker Carlson notices that, asks the hard questions, puts the politician's feet to the fire. The politician responds and asks the questions. What just happened there is a direct result of everyone who was annoyed by this saying something about it, right? That doesn't happen if you're like, there's nothing we could do. There's nothing we could do. There's nothing we could do against the government. It's impossible. Now, again, we could be wrong, right? And Ray Epps could mean nothing. The whole thing could be completely just a coincidence. I'm just playing devil's advocate. But again, that does not happen if people don't fucking say something.
Yeah.
Right? So your freedom of speech matters. Don't ever let them think or convince you that it doesn't or demoralize you to the point where you don't think that what you think or you say has any effect. It does, right? We just saw it right there. I played it for you.
And, these are questions that are eventually going to need to be answered. Just because she didn't answer them now doesn't mean they won't be asked again. Fauci his new career is just denying the same questions over and over again. But so, do you have anything else you want to talk about January 6th?
I'll keep going into, what is the purpose of the FBI, right? They are supposed to investigate crimes, but it seems like, look, they can't answer any questions here, right? Because their justification is going to be, well, if there were individuals who were involved, I can't name them in public because that would put their cover at risk and at risk of public harm, which it would, right? Because I'm sure some people would want to go after those guys, right?
But like hold them accountable for what.
I understand, but the state's rationale here is we can't give you any information because that would put our agents at risk. But the whole premise of what they possibly did is putting the public at risk, right? So, like, the whole idea of the FBI is to protect the public, right, by investigating crime and holding people accountable to justice. But they seem to be instigating crime against the public. And then when they're called to account on it, they can't answer because that would put our agents in danger. Then your organization serves no purpose in existing whatsoever, and it should be abolished, as should every other government agency, at least in my opinion. They have become complete political actors, and they don't actually behave. And maybe they never did, honestly. Now we're just coming to really. They don't really behave or operate under like the premise of what they're supposed to be.
Yeah, and let's be real. They mastermind the FBI mastermind the entire Whitmer kidnapping. Yeah. Okay, so if the FBI is willing to kidnap, was she a mayor or governor? Governor,
yeah. Gretchen Whitmer. Yes, the FBI is proved. Was working with informants and whatnot to orchestrate a plan to kidnap the governor of Michigan. Yeah.
So if the FBI is willing to do that, what else are they willing to do? Not like the CIA has never started an international war before or anything like that. These agencies cannot be trusted. And these agencies have been so dirty for so long that now, they have this beautiful, foolproof plan that even when senators and judges ask them questions, oh, well, that's operational security. We can't give you any information. So when do we get into a setting, an untelevised federal courtroom or something, where you are going to answer this shit? You know what I mean? Okay, so we can't do it here. Well, then I subpoena you to.
But even then it's in a closed door.
Yeah, I know. And then who knows what happens?
What happens? The FBI has been now conservatives are paying attention to the behavior of the Bureau and the government agencies and whatnot. But this is not the first time they've been doing this. They did this for years with the regular war on terror after 9/11. They framed, they encouraged, they had informants on so many like middle-aged Muslim men, encouraging them to commit acts of terrorism. So then they could go and arrest them and justify their existence. A lot of these agencies have circular logic. Like we need to in order to justify us existing, we need to do something, right? We need to uncover some mastermind criminal conspiracy or scheme, right? So they have to create boogeymen for them to arrest, because if nothing's going on, people are gonna be like, what do we need these guys for?
If you guys watch The Boys, Homelander helped create the first supervillain, so they had somebody,
It was
Vought made that the supervillain.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know if everybody watched The Boys, but Homelander is representative of the United States government, right? Mm-hmm. And he actually physically went and to the Middle East and captured a terrorist, gave him the juice to create a super terrorist. Yeah. So they could. That's exactly what the government does, right? Exactly, literally. Yeah. That's just a funny comic book superhero symbolization interpretation of what the government actually does in real life. And they've been doing this for a long time, like I said, with the war on Muslim extremist terror. That most of that was all bullshit. It's just now, finally conservatives who were all for that after 9/11 for a Patriot Act. It was the Republicans
it was a formation psychosis.
Right. Yeah. That put all that stuff into place. I'm glad now conservatives are waking up to what the nature of state agencies and the state in general are. And I hope people remember this, right?
Yeah.
Because when Republicans get back into power, or conservatives,
and they
whatever,
still do nothing,
or they don't do nothing, or they do the same thing again on some other sort of war or some other situation, are people going to fall right into this shit all over again? Probably, honestly. probably because it's not affecting you directly. But now that it is affecting, conservative American people directly, now you realize it. So please learn lessons from what's going on and from history. This is what states do to people. They don't give a fuck. They'll put you in solitary confinement for they'll frame you. They'll orchestrate an entire attack on themselves in order to justify a war against you because they just want more power. That's literally the purpose of the state. More power, control everything, but expand.
That's why I fully believe we are winning. I fully believe. I can't say it's going to be this year or next year. I don't know anything of a timeline, but we are winning. The cartoon where there's the dam and it starts leaking over here and you plug it and then you plug it and then you got another hole and then you got your toe in another hole. This is what is happening to the World Economic Forum, the NWO, the establishment, whatever entity. Take January 6th, for instance. Fine, you can truly believe there's an insurrection, but when we get down to the facts of it, there is nobody being charged with weapons, no one being charged of insurrection. We have people on video saying, oh, we got to charge into there and we got to F shit up and we got to go crazy, and they get taken down from the FBI watch list. There's a hole broken into it. Now we have a senator who has some popularity behind him asking the right questions. That's another hole in it.
Again, only possible because of people like us putting pressure.
You take a look at the CDC. Their narrative is falling apart. Everything we said 2 years ago, they're saying is true now. You see what Project Veritas just dropped, a military document on Dr. Fauci. Where's the Facebook fact checkers? I'd like to see what they have to say about military documents that, these particular medicines were known as curatives 1 month into the pandemic. This isn't looking good for him. There's another hole. So the whole COVID narrative, the whole vaccine narrative, the whole Fauci narrative, falling apart. The January 6th narrative, super questionable. Biden's administration, the only reason they harp on January 6th so much is because they get 1 week out of the year that everyone forgets how crappy of a president he is. That inflation just rose 7%. That the shelves are bare. That there's a shipping crisis on our hands. The border is in complete disarray. We're in the middle of the most deadliest pandemic, but it's okay to leave our southern border and open. People are rising up across the country. There's protests all around the world. Look at what they did to the French guy where they were throwing dirt at him and garbage and shit.
There was a French politician in support of mandatory vaccines for the entire public, and these French people, God bless them, they caught him outside his house and they were throwing shit at him. And it's not the first time the French have done that.
And on top of it, the PM of France, how do you say his name? Macron. He's up there going, I want to revoke the citizenship of unvaccinated. I want the vaccinated community to hassle the unvaccinated. This is how the Nazis started infiltrating and attacking the Jews little by little. It's not like they woke up on a Thursday morning and it was just get in the train. This happened over time. And I got to say, to all the unvaccinated people of France and to the PM of France, cool. You want to revoke the citizenship of the unvaccinated citizens of France? Well, I have an idea for everyone in France. If you're unvaccinated and your citizenship gets revoked, fly down to Mexico, cross the border illegally, go up to New York, and vote in our elections because you're allowed to. Okay?
New York City specifically.
Yeah, New York City. Sorry. These agendas and these narratives are falling apart across the board. There's still people questioning the election. There's something going on with an audit in Georgia about the 2020 election. Things aren't disappearing. We know Russiagate was a complete lie. We know Durham has slowly but started indicting people and investigating Russiagate. I was listening to Professor Giordano, and he had on Kash Patel, and he's like, this is how you do it. It takes a long time, but you knock out these guys on the bottom who are going to flip on the person above them. Either the person above them flips, or you know who these people are connected to, and you start connecting the dots and you question other people, and it moves up the chain of command. The whole civil war is super shady in the government collapse of Kazakhstan. I'm pretty sure some somebody very closely associated with the Biden family and with Hunter Biden just got arrested for treason out there. There's all these little chinks in the armor and there's little holes in the dam. We are winning. This can't keep going the way it is. The CDC's backtracking on all of it. You know what I mean? Like,
we'll have to get into that in another episode. But I mean, most people have noticed this. But the official COVID regime narrative, the CDC, they have flipped their position on almost every single item or position that they've had quickly within a few weeks, and there's more coming. Believe me. I don't even want to get into that though. That's a whole nother episode.
The CEO of Pfizer straight up said, "Oh yeah, 2 jabs doesn't provide any protection." Yeah. Whoa, that's not what we were sold on. And for everybody, oh, it's FDA approved, it's safe. I'm glad you think it's safe. I'm not a doctor. I'm not an expert. I can't tell you that it's safe, but I can tell you how an experiment works. Okay. We are up to our 4th shot now. Some other places have already administered their 4th dose of, the vaccine. Right away, Pfizer is going to have an Omicron vaccine, so there's number 5 for us.
They said around March it'll be ready. Can I make a point on that real quick? I hate to go into this black hole here of Omicron, but Pfizer has said, yes, by March they will have a new booster vaccine for Omicron specifically, and they're going to name it version 1.1 of the COVID vaccine. Boy, is that deception, right? Because now this is going to be your 5th shot maybe, or your 4th shot, but it's version 1.1. So they're going to make it believe like, no, this is shot number 1.
Yep.
Instead, no, this is shot number 5. We're not going to get into. I don't want to even. We could just go on and on about that forever.
My point here, what I'm saying to that is, this is an experiment. An experiment is you take your test subject and go, oh, inject. Oh, look at this new one. Inject. Oh, look at this new one. Inject. When are you going to when are you going to make it stop? You know what I'm saying? And people are waking up to this. I know people are out there getting their boosters, but I know people who don't want the boosters. And I'm not saying YouTube, calm down. I'm not saying not go out and get it, but it's falling apart. And it's only going to snowball from here. The lies are too big. It's too blatant. And the angrier the establishment and this administration gets, and the harder they try, and they're going to lose control that much quicker. Just like the whole thing, all of a sudden now we're backtracking on COVID and the CDC's changing all their points of views. And what is the government talking about? Election reform. Oh boy, 2022, we're not going to have COVID anymore, but we're going to have election reform. This administration,
it's only right. It's only good, like they need to protect and save our democracy. Yeah. But when MAGA and the conservative side say the same thing, they're accusing them of trying to rig democracy and a violent coup. But when they do it, it's they're protecting and saving democracy.
And I love how
it's very, very, very hypocritical and very telling.
Yeah. And first and foremost, this administration has dropped the ball on literally everything it's done. So if you think this administration can fix election and reform the elections, you are wildly, wildly mistaken.
They can't even distribute COVID rapid tests, efficiently.
Yeah. It's just, I really feel we're winning here, and I really feel things are just going to pick up from here.
Yeah. Everybody should take the captain's white pill there, right? I feel like you just got 1,000 things off your chest of a week's worth of stuff.
I told you
weren't able to say.
Just going around my brain, man.
I agree with you 100%, though. They're in complete free fall collapse. Their narratives are completely falling. And let's go back real quick to January 6th, because I ain't done yet, right, on Ray Epps. So after this whole thing happened.
Oh, boy, if I knew you had more, I would have waited.
That's all right. Because this is going to go into your point about how they're just trying more things. The more they lose, the more obvious them clamping down and trying to bolster their narrative becomes, right? So this was, again, Monday, Ted Cruz's interview with Tucker. Tuesday, Ted Cruz questions the FBI. Today, I go on to Twitter today, and the first thing I see on the front page is that Ray Epps finally shows up, right, from the establishment news. Twitter on the front page says that the January 6th commission apparently did interview Ray Epps some point in November, right? And Twitter has it. Snopes.com comes out with saying that it's a right-wing conspiracy theory and that he was not involved. The New York Times writes a piece. All of the usual PolitiFact, right? They all jump in. The next day. They never, all these institutions, these Snopes, New York Times, blah, 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 never once mentioned this guy's name. That's why everyone in independent media like us has been screaming, who the fuck is this guy? As just one example. He's not even the only example because there's other unnamed, unindicted individuals in the whole Capitol riot. But now they finally go all out. All of these different media outlets now start reporting on Ray Epps, right? So here's from the New York Times. The January 6th Select Committee is aware of unsupported claims that Ray Epps was an FBI informant based on the fact that he was on the FBI wanted list and then was removed from that list without being charged. Tim Mulvey, a spokesperson for the House committee, said in the statement. The Select Committee has interviewed Mr. Epps. Mr. Epps informed us that he was not employed by, working with, or acting at the direction of any law enforcement agency on January 5th or 6th at any other time, and that he has never been an informant for the FBI or any other law enforcement agency. The January 6th committee is saying they interviewed Ray Epps in November, and this is what he told him. And the January 6th committee says, okay, we believe you. That's it. The January 6th committee, right, who has been trying at length to persecute, go after, they've held people in solitary confinement. Right. They have gone through extreme lengths to punish anybody who was involved with the Capitol riot, right? You have Ray Epps. He's the one guy we have like the most conclusive video evidence on. Even if you want to say he wasn't an FBI agent, right? He is guilty. He's guilty of instigating people to attack the Capitol, right? So they have gone after every other person, right? The QAnon shaman guy, every other random stupid idiot who ran in there. But this guy, oh no, we take him at his word and we let him go. Yeah. And that's it. And they never even made it public knowledge that they spoke to him until today. Yeah. Until today. The day after Ted Cruz brought it up to them. Is that not fucking suspicious? Come on. Did they even speak to him? Probably. I'm sorry, my opinion. No, they didn't speak to him. They just made the whole fucking thing up.
Hey, something I realized from the end of last week into this week of mass formation psychosis. We talked about it a lot in our very recent episodes. You know how I know mass formation psychosis is real? Because this new term came up on a popular show that millions of people listen to. And then you brought to my attention that like Google didn't even have a definition for it right away.
New term.
And then all of a sudden, the New York Times and the Washington Post and CNN and ABC, whatever these, the corporate media press comes out with, all saying the same thing, that formation psychosis is not real. That is not what's going on. Gee whiz, the people who are making the psychosis are saying it's not. What do you fucking think?
Yeah.
They're just covering their tracks because we, the people, just got a new piece of information and everybody was just starting to go, wait a minute. And the people who are putting us into this psychosis are going, no, unanimously at the same time. And
just like this.
Here's another perfect example of it.
Isn't it? Look, take every political bias aside. Isn't it just suspicious when not every, right? But let's say 99%, right? There's 1% that are not, but 99% of every like establishment, corporate, big media outlet, all at the same time,
had info on Epps.
Repeat. No, just forget about any random item. Just repeat the exact same thing. Mm-hmm. They don't. No one else. They don't have opposing views. They don't. One, like it's not like CNN thinks one thing and MSNBC thinks another, and then New York Times also, hey, well, this is our take. No, they all have the exact same take, and they all come out with these takes on the exact same day, whether it's a change in the COVID narrative, or it's Ray Epps, who's not an FBI informant, or if it's mass formation psychosis is not a real thing. The word didn't even exist, and now the next day it's not a real thing, and they all in unison. I mean, that could not be a more evident proof that mass formation psychosis exists, is that when that term arises, the next day they all repeat
in unison
that it doesn't exist. Yeah. Maybe it doesn't exist. Again, I'm not like God that I know everything.
Right.
The way that these organizations portray themselves to be, that they just know the truth on everything. So I mean, you're right, dude. It's just suspicious in my opinion that we for months have been saying, who is Ray Epps? what's going on with Ray Epps, what's going on with the the possibility of FBI being informed. They never said anything until the day that they were held to account in public, like on television, by another Congress. And again, go all the way back, not possible to be done without people like us, without you guys listening, whoever, without, like using your freedom of speech, being involved, sharing things on your social media. None of that shit happens without it. So don't ever let them fucking put you down or demoralize you.
And things like this can't be let go. Because we talked about Epps a
couple
while
times
ago,
and
now it's
two or
finally
3 episodes on.
Now it's finally getting into the mainstream, and this is the mainstream's way of saying, "Well, we're being held accountable. We spoke to him. We found out information. We can't just let it." And it does not end here. Look at Ghislaine Maxwell. This was another thing that I wanted to add to the white pills. She was found guilty. And then right away, everybody started asking questions. Well, wait a minute. If she did groom these girls for men to rape them, who are the men raping them? Oh, well, that's the $1 million question that no one can answer.
The first sex trafficker accused of trafficking people to nobody.
Yes. And, it can't stop there. And then all of a sudden there was the juror who possibly might, make an entire mistrial.
Yes,
and stuff.
Hang on, because a lot of people might not even know about that. So, Ghislaine Maxwell was found guilty on, I think, 5 out of 6 charges. A couple of weeks have gone by, and one of the jurors apparently wrote something and spoke out and made certain comments about how they personally had experienced sexual abuse or sexual harassment or something like that. The judge who was in charge of the Maxwell case has now floated out the idea that this could be grounds for a mistrial. It might not be. We're going to keep an eye on it, but how many things did you just say before? Like, how many more fucking things? How many more? What's from Always Sunny, what's his name? Where Charlie's pointing at the wall, and there's a million things like dots. Yeah. How many more dots do we got to put up on the wall?
Yes.
I'm sure a lot of Doom Nation already is skeptical of everything going on, right? But shit, how many more dots on the wall do you need to figure out something fucking, like any random person? I think Unfit Statesman said this. You could look at some of these situations and be like, yeah, I don't really know much about this, but this doesn't seem right. It just doesn't.
Yes. You're smarter than you think. Doom Nation, it's your job to share this stuff out there. We say it, you guys got to get it out there as much as you can. Feed red pills
to people.
Yes. And on top of, another white pill for the whole Ghislaine Maxwell pedophile case, sex trafficking, Prince Andrew set like a motion to not go to trial or whatever.
Yeah.
Denied. He's going, it's moving forward with discovery.
So we'll see.
So another hole in the dam that, the queen over there has got to stick her fucking old little finger in.
Yeah, hold these fucking elites accountable for despicable actions, and let's uncover the whole thing. So I'm gonna go into my next topic here, which is just interesting. I'm going after Australia, and I ain't a tennis fan. I know who Novak Djokovic is. He's like the #1 tennis player in the world. He has not been vaccinated, right? And we've done some episodes. We've talked about Australia. They're insane. Mm-hmm. They've become a completely totalitarian government down there, enforcing like their COVID regime. Just some really crazy shit. So they're having the Australian Open down there, tennis tournament, and Novak, #1 player in men in the world. This is like the Michael Jordan of tennis. He's gonna go right to the Open, and you need to be vaccinated to go to Australia, right? Because they're a complete COVID regime. So on December 30th, Djokovic was granted a medical exemption to participate in the Australian Open by its governing body, Tennis Australia, which is the only way an unvaccinated athlete would be allowed to play, given the country's strict vaccination rules. But when he arrived in Australia, the visa was canceled by the federal government because he's unvaccinated. And they arrested him, right? Like some of these articles I've been reading about it, they don't go, they're too kind to the totalitarians, right? Novak Djokovic is told, you have an exemption, you can come play. He shows up, he flies all the way to Australia, not around the corner from Serbia, where he's from, lands there, and he is arrested and his visa pulled for being unvaccinated. At the bare minimum, it looks like they tricked him.
Yeah, they trapped him.
The Australian regime tricked him and told him you could come here. You're not vaccinated. He gets there. He's a person, he's a public figure who is participating in something that is directly antithetical to the Australian regime's wants at the moment. They tricked him into coming there. He got there. They arrested him because they want to make an example out of this anti-vaxxer, this asshole who's putting your lives in danger. We did the right thing. We arrested him and put him in jail. Right? A couple days goes by. He's basically being held under arrest in some quarantine hotel over there.
Probably a camp.
He appeals to the Australian courts, and the judge rules like, yeah, no, this guy's right. You can't just do that to him. And they reinstate his visa. The government ain't giving up, right? They're saying, no, he's lied in the past. In early December, he tested positive for COVID, so he's been misleading about his thing, this, that, whatever. Regardless, they took a person who they told, it's okay, you could come here. They arrested him, made a public example of him because they want to bolster their narrative. Right? Are you familiar with the Australian regime? Obviously is insane. And we've made a million times the comparisons to the Nazis and the way that they have behaved. Obviously, a lot of people do that, make that comparison because that's just like the easiest comparison to make because the Nazis were so over the top crazy. Yeah. And like you said, they didn't get there on day one. No. They got there gradually over time. So
through mass formation psychosis.
Yes, they did. They put the German population under the mass formation psychosis. So are you familiar with the 1936 Olympics at all?
Is that Owens? Where the black guy won in Germany and they were like, yay, here's your gold medal. Now get out of here. You can't come to dinner.
Yes, that's what happened when he came back to America. Because America, not a great country, government. So I want to compare what just happened to Novak Djokovic to what happened to Jesse Owens in the 1936 Olympics, because there's a similarity there, right? The Australian Open is a sporting event. The 1936 Olympics was a sporting event, both happening within the
trying times of the world
and happening on the land of a totalitarian regime. The 1936 Olympics, I believe, was in Berlin, in Nazi Germany, right? So, Let's go back a few years before 1936, right? In 1933 of April, the Nazis' sports office ordered all public athlete organizations to implement an Aryans-only policy. And this policy obviously sparked global outrage, and especially because just 2 years earlier, the IOC, the Olympic Committee, granted the 1936 Summer Olympics to Berlin. So the Nazis have a law at this time, obviously an insane batshit wrong law, that people participating in sports can only be white German Aryan descent, right? No one else. And they passed this after they were given the Olympics, right? The Olympics come along in 1936. The United States team is sending 18 African Americans to compete in relays, like running. Remember, the Nazis have a law. Only Aryans can participate in athletic events in Nazi Germany. The Nazis allow the 18 African Americans to compete in the Olympics on Nazi Germany property. They weren't nice to them. Hitler snubbed Jesse Owens when he won the gold, and they weren't great
America,
people.
baby, we won.
Right? But the Nazis were more accommodating of African Americans than the Australians were of an unvaccinated Novak Djokovic in terms of a sporting event that was on their property. Let that sink in for a moment for you. The Nazis didn't arrest Jesse Owens. They didn't, put him in a quarantine. They could have, right? They're the most evil people in the world. They could have, and I'm not, defending them in any way. Just let that sink in for a moment. Right now, they are treating unvaccinated people in Australia worse than the Nazis would have treated African Americans participating in a sporting event. That's batshit fucking crazy. I'm sorry.
That's how progressive Australia is. And it makes you wonder now that you bring up Jesse Owens and how we had the Olympics in Germany. The next Olympics are in China.
Right.
China.
Yeah.
And who knows what's going to happen over there.
Yeah. Who knows? I mean, they'll probably be super welcoming of every unvaccinated person. The way it's the Western democracies who are the most totalitarian. No. I'm not giving cover for these administrations, the Nazis or the Chinese, but it's just I don't know how else to put it besides that is fucking insane that they would behave in such a way.
It's amazing to the people who follow them and think they are on the right side of history. It is wildly it must be wildly brainwashing to look at the PM of France and him going, I want to revoke citizenship of the unvaccinated. I want you to go out there and harm your. I mean, if we were to call,
right? He said something along the lines of, "I want to make life difficult for them." I mean, and real quick, just because everybody makes the Nazi comparison, right? And then there's the people who say, "How dare you compare like what these COVID measures to the Nazis?" It's like disrespectful. But I mean, these leaders around the world are speaking the same way that the Nazis did. The Prime Minister of France literally said, "I want to revoke your citizenship if you are unvaccinated, and I want to make your life difficult. I don't want you to be able to go to the store." What the fuck? That's exactly similar things that that Hitler would have said at the time. He revoked the citizenship of every Jewish person in Australia. He made sure that they couldn't participate in society. He segregated them into certain neighborhoods until they eventually put them on the fucking carts and shipped them away to concentration camps. What you were saying before, these things don't happen in
Overnight.
one day.
No.
They're over time, over years. So the comparison, and I'll let you get your point, is warranted. It is justified. The reason why we make the comparison is because it's over the top, because we don't want it to get to that.
Yeah. I mean, to think that, like, this is the right guy, this is the good guy, you're out of your mind. Like, you say, oh, how dare you compare it to what the Nazis did? Australia has camps.
Right.
They have camps
on.
that if the government, so your wife just got sick, right? And if I was over here a day, 2-3 days before she tested positive, the government would come and find me and they'd say, you've been exposed. And then I would be tested. And even if I test negative, I still have to go to the camp.
Yeah, and look, I mean, as of right now, they're not killing people the way the Nazis did in the camp. So I'll give the Australians.
But the Nazis didn't kill people on day one either.
First, they put them into ghettos. Right. First, they put the Jews into ghettos. They put them into quarantine zones because they referred to them as disease-ridden vermin, and they had to be separated from society. So yes, the Nazis did not start with mass murdering everybody. First, they separated them. Then eventually, they did. Is that going to happen with Australia or whatever? Maybe not, right? Probably not. I'll say probably not. I don't think probably not. I don't think that these lunatic Macrons or whatever the guy's name is, I forget his name in Australia, are as insane as Hitler. He's the arch villain of all time, Hitler, right? They're a step below. But we make sure that they don't get to that point by making sure, hey, you remember this guy? This is what he did, and he conned the rest of the fucking world into allowing him to do it.
Yeah, I do. I do think they are crazy enough. I do think they are villainous enough. I do think they are straight up retarded enough. The only problem, though, is, like, it's not like Australia can start or France can start because the world's big. And we are very well connected now, way more so than in World War II. So if word got out and it became fact and it was truth that, like, Australia is killing unvaccinated people, the world...
That's right-wing misinformation. That's a conspiracy theory.
That's fine, but every conspiracy theory is just a spoiler alert. So
I'm just saying that's what they would say.
No, I understand that. But if that people would really rise up.
You think so?
Yeah, because the revolution won't be televised. And look at what goes on, all the mass protesting in Germany and in France and across Europe. And there was thousands of people outside the mayor's office in New York City. It's only going to get bigger. You don't see protesting in Middle America because they're not under the same restrictions we are. One thing that I truly believe, this whole COVID thing is nonsense to a level because it's on, like, you don't need to worry about it when you're working on your farm in Nebraska. You need to worry about it when you're walking down Fifth Avenue, when you're on, Hollywood Boulevard, when you're in, visiting the Eiffel Tower. But I could promise you the countryside of Spain, these people aren't, filling up the hospitals and stuff. But I really feel like if the scales were to tip into this violent manner, the people who are already protesting are going to protest 10 times harder. Then I really think...
Or they'll get violent. Like
things would really get out of control maybe like Australia would be like a lost cause, but look at, like, they were throwing dirt and shit at that one politician in France. It's going to turn into bricks and rocks and Molotovs, and you know what I mean? Like,
and in that, I'm not advocating for violence here, but in that situation, that's self-defense. Like, there are stories, again, it's tied back to Nazi Germany. There are stories of some Jews fighting back.
Yeah.
If you ever watch, I'm pretty sure it's based on a true story. The Pianist with Adrian Brody, and they document like certain Jews in, I believe it was Poland. They put together a resistance and they lost, right? Obviously, you're not going to be able to fight back against the most powerful military, a couple ragtag guys, but they fucking fought back, violently killed some people, and got a little slight measure of revenge. Yeah. They were completely justified in what they did. So if that were a situation were to come again, and like Australia was literally just incinerating people in their quarantine camps, and some Australian people decided, well, you know what, we're gonna fucking do some real terrorism and fight back. They're justified because that's self-defense at that point. Yeah. I'm not advocating for any violence on either side. I'm just saying there is the difference in violence, as Kyle Rittenhouse proved.
Well, I'm good, man. I got a lot off my chest today. Fed the world a big white pill.
Maybe we should just do an episode where we just push record and you just go
rant.
Like I won't even be here. You just rant about all the things pissing you off. We'll make sure not to do an episode for a while so he's really pent up and built up.
It's funny because sometimes I think when I do the process of getting ready for the show and we talk throughout the week and everybody has their different process. You're very analytical where you have your whole notepad and stuff. And I take down notes and I send myself articles to read later and stuff. And I have different, places that I go to spark ideas. But that's where the ideas and my opinions start forming in my head. And, it's basically just Charlie in there connecting the dots and stuff. And I will start talking to myself of well, this is why this is wrong. And I sometimes want to just record myself in the moment rant. If in the shower, just this is why we're going to lose. This is why the administration's and just see what I could produce.
That's, that's a challenge of podcasting and doing a show. It's you have your thoughts, you have your opinions, and in your head, they're perfect, right? And you know exactly what you want to say. The being able to articulate them on a show is very difficult.
And work them into a conversation properly and make them fluent with the other topics and stuff. Yeah.
That's why some of the best podcasters, like just use Dave Smith, for example, is because he's so articulate in making his point. Or Nick, right? Giordano. You could listen to him and you get exactly what he means.
Yeah, they're not idiots like me forgetting what they're saying halfway through.
Right, exactly, right. So, yeah. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening. As always, we'll be back, of course, very soon, I'm sure.
Yeah. Hopefully we get some more reviews in, too.
Yeah, we'll see what's going on. There's, without Marvel, we took a little break from... We did a lot of reviews,
I'm not reviewing Boba Fett or Mandalorian.
Mandalorian, let's review. What do you think?
No, I will review the season of Boba Fett.
Okay.
I don't want to review Mandalorian because that is my new most favorite character that in the past, decade has come out. You know what I mean? I have not loved a character like that in a long time. I don't want to work around this show. I want to sit down and enjoy it at my own leisure and not worry about if I hate it, maybe I'll record, I'll review it, but I haven't been this in love with a character in a long time.
Fair enough. All right, you buying me some time anyway because I got a new computer, new video editing system. I got no idea what the fuck I'm doing.
Nice.
So bear with me, folks, as we make the next couple episodes. There might be some glitches or things missing or whatnot as I learn Final Cut Pro or whatever the fuck it is. So.
Hey, tell us what you want us to review. We'll do it.
Yeah,
we'll do it. We listen to you
got
guys.
some booze over here, man. We'll see. All right, everybody. Later.
Adios.